Daled on page 4, Chav Zayin. We were talking about the concept of to be able to reach back to Parach Mata Aharon. He went into what it says, Maimer, that the Frierdiker Rebbe said today, 98 years ago, on Tafresh Pei Zayin, when he was imprisoned. He said a Maimer entitled Min HaMesa Karasi Yudke. He had questions on why are we calling out to Yudke. We should call out to Shem Havaya, which is the name of Rachamim. And we start also explaining that it says in the pasuk, Bitchu b'Havaya adei ad, that the betochen in Havaya has to be until one reaches the level of ad. We didn't explain yet what specifically that level of ad is that we need to reach to in our betochen. That's what we're going to discuss in the next few parts of the Maimer, and also the reason why we reach that level of adei ad, until the level of ad. It's ki beka Hashem tzurilam, because with Yudke, the Eibshter formed the worlds, that Yud created Elam Haba and Hey created Elam Hazeh. So now he's going to start exploring what is the level of ad that we are having betochen up till and to reach. And as I mentioned yesterday, we're going to have two explanations in what this level of ad is. So Ois Daled, line 6 on the 4th page. The idea behind this is according to what it says in the explanations on the Zohar of the Mittler Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek. They both had a sefer called Biyuri HaZohar. There was direct explanations on the Zohar. The idea of betochen is only in the level of ad, as we'll soon explain. That is the koy al sfiras ha-malchus. It's referring to the sfira of malchus. Why does ad have to do with the sfira of malchus? Ki aloshen adei ad, because the expression forever and ever, the literal meaning of adei ad, kosher meaning azman, is connected with the idea of time. Forever means how long time goes on for, etc. So the word ad, in the simple sense that it's forever, has to do with the idea of time. And time, we know, because this always speaks about shesharshim esfiras ha-malchus. Its root is from the sphere of malchus. As we know, higher than malchus, it's beyond the level of time. That's why only in malchus do we use Hashem Melech, Hashem Molech, Hashem Yimlech, present tense, past tense, and future tense. We don't use that for any of the other spheres, any of the other descriptions of Hashem, because all those other levels are beyond time, whereas malchus, the source of time. So therefore, adei ad means that the idea of betochen reaches and has to do with the level of malchus. Now he's going to bring down, it's not just malchus, but even higher than malchus is hinted in the word ad. Until, and including the general idea of the midas of Zeir Ampin. Like it's hinted in the word ad, ki ayin, because the letter ayin, who's Zeir Ampin, it's going on all the midas, shekol shavas, all the midas, the way they are made up of the 7 attributes of emotions, chesed, gvura, teferes, netzach, hod, yesod, malchus, kol echad, kol ma'asor, each one of them, times 10, the way they have all the other 10 spheres in it, so therefore you have the number 70. The Dalet on malchus. In other places in Chassidus, he speaks about that the letter Dalet goes on malchus. So there's ad includes the entire idea of Zeir Ampin and malchus as a separate entity. How come? Why is betochen have to do with ad, with Zeir Ampin and malchus? So he says, just like in a simple sense, when I trust someone and I rely on someone, so he says, like for example, a person that trusts and has confidence in the love of his friend, that because of his friend's love for him, therefore he trusts him and he has confidence that he can rely on him for his needs. That's also the idea of the trust that we have in Hashem. It comes from the might and power of the overpowering of the midas of love and awe. Yois noch in libi batuach b'Hashem, that his heart is set and confident in Hashem. Shlo yazev gam ki chazdiv avasim menu lo'ozer l'mal bakashasei. Hashem's love for him is so powerful that he will not desert and he will not leave behind his kindness and his love from the person to assist him and fulfill his requests. Amlam yet l'mailum b'chinas ad, higher in the level of ad. The hainu b'chinas yudke, because we said that the highest level of ad is Zeir Anpin and Malchus. So yudke, we know yudke, Chassidus explains, yud goes on the level of Chochmah, like Chochmah is a point, and Bina is the expansion of that point, so that's the first hay of Shem Yudke Vavke. Over there, the person's betachin does not touch in the level of Yudke. How come? Why is it removed from that? Kisham hutachos habitul shalamaylam dreges ha'ava shememenu nimshach ha'avtachin shemuftach ba'eva amiti. Over there, the level of Yudke, as we know, Chachma is koyachma, the power of bittul. And in general, the level of intellect versus the emotions is the idea of bittul. Therefore, that bittul is totally beyond the level of love. And love is the source from which the confidence and trust of a person comes, that he's trusting in his beloved and his true friend. As opposed to the level of bittul, comes about just the opposite, the distance, and that he feels low. And over there, it's not applicable so much that he should have a feeling of trust and confidence. That his heart should be completely ready and confident and trusting that Hashem is going to take care of him, because when you have a feeling of lowness, you have a feeling of bittul. So it's like Yaakov Avinu said, I've become minimized by all the kindness. I'm overwhelmed by it. I cannot. I don't have any more confidence that Hashem will take care of me, and therefore he had to ask for a special request that they should take care of him and save him from Esav, etc., etc. After all the out of his great awe and bittul that he had before Hashem. Over there in that original Maimer that the Frierdiker Rebbe said, on this date, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, Tov Resh Pei Zayin, the Frierdiker Rebbe explains this topic of the difference between love and awe. That love engenders or is it causes by the person a closeness. He's drawn to it. He wants to get closer and closer. Yira, awe and fear and embarrassment, all these things causes a person to pull back. They were fearful and they trembled and they stood from afar. Fear causes a person to jump back. So therefore, this jumping back means I don't feel worthy of anything. I have no confidence. That's the level of Yudke. That's the level of the awe and bittul that comes because of Yudke. Then the Rebbe gives another type of understanding of this idea of the Yudke, not the bittul of Yudke, not being confident without a doubt, like he says, Belishum Safek, like Yaakov Avinu had this doubt. Yesh Levayer, Gamboy Fanacher, he says in line 27. We could also explain it in another manner. What is the cause of the person's betachin? Mitzad zeh shemekayim Torah u'mitzvahs, top of page Chav Ches, u'batla Kadosh Baruch Hu. Because he is fulfilling Torah mitzvahs and he is nullified to Hashem. Since bittul, that expresses itself in his fulfilling what Hashem asks of him to do, that affects that the Shekhinah dwells down here, comes down here, like the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, that the whole idea of Torah mitzvahs is to bring down godliness into this world. Therefore, he could be reliant and he could be confident that his request should be fulfilled. Amnam inyan zeh shaykh rak bedarge shesham negeh inyan ha-Torah mitzvahs. Where is it applicable that his request should be fulfilled? If it originates in such a level where Torah mitzvahs, or it impacts such a level where Torah mitzvahs have an impact over there. As opposed to a higher level. That idea of Torah mitzvahs do not occupy any place over there. Like the Chazal say, doesn't make a difference to Hashem. If a person slaughters an animal a kosher manner, that he slaughters it from the throat, or he slaughters it from the neck, which is not kosher. In other words, there's a level in Elokus that's beyond the idea of Torah mitzvahs. And if we, in that level, B'tachan cannot tap into, because since B'tachan is linked to Torah mitzvahs. This is, by the way, this idea that B'tachan is linked to Torah mitzvahs, the Chovos HaLevavos speaks about also in Shar B'tachan. A person cannot just come empty-handed and not do anything and say, I have B'tachan in Hashem. The very fact that you are saying you have B'tachan in Hashem means that you are having a relationship with Hashem. But if you refuse consciously to do Torah mitzvahs, then you have severed any type of relationship with Hashem. You're not about a relationship with Hashem. So how can you have a B'tachan in Hashem? It's self-contradictory. So he says, so in a similar vein, when we're dealing with a level that's beyond Torah mitzvahs, over there, the B'tachan doesn't reach. So where do we see that there's a level where there's no distinctions? Like it says, we had this also in the last mimer, if I remember correctly, that a spider, it can be grasped with the hands, and still in all, it's something that's in the palaces of kings, meaning that there's no significance to the person's Torah mitzvahs, and even something that's like the opposite of Torah mitzvahs, the smamis indicates klippa, can even reach all the way, when you're dealing with a high level, you're dealing with the palaces of the king, it could be things that are can be a source for things that are even the opposite of Torah mitzvahs. As in the terms, the way it's brought down in other areas of Chassidus, this means that from the makif, from the transcendent level, from the level that's beyond Seder Ishtalshlus, even klippas could be yonik. So we don't have a special relationship with Hashem in the level that's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus. So now the Rebbe is going to continue. That doesn't mean we're completely out of the picture with that level. So the Rebbe is going to make a distinction. There's a difference between b'tachan, meaning being confident and trusting that will happen, versus seeking assistance from there. So he says in line 11, second paragraph, though in this level it's higher than Torah mitzvahs, the idea of b'tachan doesn't apply, or in the level of Yudke, the level of Bittul, over there the b'tachan doesn't apply. Still in all, there's another approach. It is better to shield oneself in Havaya than trusting in Adam. We're soon going to talk about the Adams, referring to Adam Elyon, the level of Seder Ishtalshlus, the level where B'tachan does reach. And Lachses B'Havaya is talking about this level that's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus. So even though you might not have the level of B'tachan on that level, it's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus, but it's still better to have that level of Lachses B'Havaya to shield oneself in Hashem. So he's going to explain an interesting take on the word mibtoyach. Mibtoyach means the word b'tachan. But he says another thing. Mibtoyach, line 13, hu meloshen v'tach es habayis. That the word b'toyach is also, from what it says, he smears, he paints, he puts like new mortar, etc., over the house. What does that mean? It means something that causes to cleave and to join. When someone seals something, they use ticha, it says. What does that mean? That this, it means a type of cleaving, that this is an internal level and deep inside of him. So in other words, we're dealing with a level that's shaykh to Seder Ishtalshlos. It's something that's internalized, and therefore he cleaves to it, he joins it. The level of ticha applies. The lachsois, on the other hand, the word lachsois, to shield oneself. What is a shield? He seeks protection. He seeks being shielded in the shadow and the transcendent level that's above and even higher than the level that he's shaykh to come down the pnimis through Torah mitzvahs and through love and awe and so on. So that's what he says over here. That's what he concludes. It's better to shield oneself in the transcendent level, of the level of Yud Kei Vav Kei, more so than the inner resting of the Adam Elyon. Even though over here in Adam Elyon, B'toyach, when it comes down internally, it's a level of B'tochen, yet the Makif that transcends it is even better than that. The level that is he's being choisa in. In other words, the level of Makif, it's not shaykh, the idea of betochen, and betochen is also shuloshain ticha v'dveikus. That's not shaykh to cleave to it. It doesn't become completely joined. Not like Torah mitzvahs that causes the hashras hashchina, it causes the shchina resting, residing internally. But rather, this level of makif alarak lachsis b'Hashem, it's only shaykh to shield oneself in Hashem. She'ena k'moishe muftach mamish. Shielding oneself in Hashem is not like something that he's completely confident and trusting, but he's like searching for Hashem and making Hashem his shield, though, like we said before, it's not something that's without a doubt, but like Yaakov davened to Hashem, help me from Esav because I become minimized because of all the chasadim that you did. That is one approach, that the level of b'tachin only reaches so high. That's what the words adiyad means to say, that the highest levels is Zeir Anpin and Malchus, or the levels where Torah mitzvahs reach. But for sure, the level that's transcendent, higher than Seder Ishtalshlos, b'tachin doesn't reach over there. Now we're going to speak about a different approach, how b'tachin can reach even higher than that. Ois Hey, line 22. There's another explanation what it says. Trust Navaya for until the level of Ad. You came. One of the ways of translates it in the groups of. But what types of groups? What's it mean? Shapirish Rashi Sholshoin Ad. That Rashi explains it's from the word Ad, as we'll soon say, K'may Bitcho Hashem Adiyad, just like in our pasuk where it says, trust in Hashem Adiyad, Shu Inyan Hakishutin. It's the idea of jewelry. It says the Bnei Yisrael removed Edyom Alehem, that when after the Cheta Egel they removed their adornments, their beautiful clothes, their jewelry, they removed from upon them. What does Ad mean then? What does it mean, these groups of jewelry, this type of idea of this multiple levels of jewelry, or generally, what's the idea of jewelry over here? It's explained in Alter Rebbe's L'chutei Torah on parts Pekudei. It's referring to Keser, that's beyond the chain order of descent. Because Keser, a crown, is the ultimate in jewelry. It's something that adorns the person, beautifies the person. This idea that Keser is, which is higher than Seder Shtalshlus, is meant when it says Bitchu v'Hashem ad Ad, you should have trust until the level of Ad is going on Keser. It also has to do with the simple meaning of Ad. Kimay Ad poi tavoy. What is the simple meaning of Ad? Up till here, you can go, or you can arrive. What does that mean? Arriving somewhere, coming somewhere means you're able to internalize it. You're able to relate to it. You're able to receive it. You're able to grasp it. So when it says Ad, this means up till here, because the level of Ad is beyond grasp. Up till here, you can have a comprehension, but not including the Ad. The simple meaning is, Chazal always speaks about when this uses the word Ad, sometimes when it uses the word Ad until, it can include whatever that is. Until I get home will include also when I'm home. And we had this actually, I think, recently in Rambam, in Hilchos Nedarim. And Ad could also mean until, but not including. In this case, when we're talking about Ad referring to Keser, that means that Keser is beyond comprehension. That it's only up till here you can comprehend, but Keser is beyond comprehension. That is in Keser, there's no type of comprehension whatsoever. And not only is there no type of comprehension, but it's in such a way that even a question doesn't even apply. It's similar to what we had just recently in Tanya, that if a person is going to say that the idea is so deep that I can't even touch it with my hands, that's foolish, because ideas and touch have nothing to do with each other. Keser is so beyond the idea of grasp, of intellectual grasp, of intellectual understanding. It's not even possible to ask a question or to say, I have no answer on a question. Questions don't apply over there. Just like touch does not apply with intellect, questions do not apply when it comes to Keser. So that's how far removed it is from understanding. The Rebbe says, only in particularly from this level, it's applicable to the idea of trust. This is totally different than what we said before. Then the level is completely beyond Seder Shtalshlus, B'tachin doesn't apply. So he says, like in that Maimer, the Friedrich Rebbe said on this date in prison, explains, what is the level of Ad going on? What's the Ad that a person has to have B'tachin in? It's the level that transcends all the worlds. This is what the Friedrich Rebbe was experiencing. All the types of obstacles and all the types of difficulties and preventions on Torah study and the fulfillment of mitzvahs is only a result of Golus. And Golus, only in the level of the chain order of descent and the level of godliness that is limited and fills the world, over there it's possible to have the idea of Golus, and over there it's possible that there should be things that cover over on Torah mitzvahs. And therefore, I may say I'm not batuach, I'm not positive that there's going to be a good and positive outcome. As opposed from the level of Soiv Kalam over there, it's beyond any type of constrictions or limitations. Therefore, there can't be any constrictions of Golus. From that perspective, there can't be any types of coverings on Torah mitzvahs, and that's how you can have the ultimate level of revelation of that brings the person to B'tachin.